while, man. Pardon the pun. Since we last spoke, it's what was it? June?
Yeah, it was
June last year.
June last year. I was just kind of watching some of the video of episode 5, and this is what it's now.
Episode 60.
Episode 60
55
now.
episodes later.
Yeah.
So how are you, man? It's good to see you after all these years.
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's just been an interesting year. Obviously, I was down in Glasgow. Moved back up for a bit of time there as well, and just been cracking on with Dead Sapien, and
I've been absolutely killing it, mate. Like the tracks have just been coming. Literally, Meltdowns came out 2-3 weeks ago now.
Came out on the 28th, so it's 2 weeks today.
Yeah, man.
Because it's what Thursday today, right?
Yeah. You lose track of time.
Pretty much, man.
Trust me, man. It all goes into one motion for me now. But so I asked Tom Morris this last week, a couple of weeks ago actually, when we had him on. Do you get nervous in the build up to releasing a track or releasing work? I suppose.
I think it's more of a thing of, you spend so much time working on something. You're talking countless hours there as well. Retakes, re-edits, refining it, and once it's out, you're kind of just hoping that it's accepted, I suppose. It's like, cool, I've made this thing, and what do you think about it? Please don't say you hate it.
Yeah, it's like a position of vulnerability, though, right?
Yeah,
I think it takes a lot of courage in any shape or form to put yourself out there in any kind of way, especially being an independent artist and that, obviously, with the local scene. But I suppose, how is it different? Because the first, For All That Have Fallen and Been a While you did down in Glasgow, and obviously the last couple of tracks, I'd imagine you've been more so back up here, but you have been going back and forth to Glasgow anyway. So how's it worked? Have you been taking a lot more control of how things have worked out? I know you're studying audio and that, so I'd imagine you take care of most of that anyway, but in terms of lyric videos and promos and all the stuff that you promote these tracks with.
So that's all me as well, yeah,
man.
Yeah, it's
one-man army.
That's an hour's sleep, no. But it is, I think until, I can, some of the photography, Angus McLennan, he's done some of that as well. However, lately just with a lot of gigs and things going on there as well. His kind of bandwidth for taking on work just now is it's getting harder and harder in that as well. So again, I'm just cool. Rather than wait for the opportunity to get someone in, it's just get it done. People don't really care. About cool. I've got to wait an extra 2 weeks because this has fell through. It's cool. Just we need to figure out how we can get this done.
Yeah.
And, obviously, we need to make sure that we're not kind of sacrificing an element of quality there as well, but also, try not to be too hard on yourself with it as well, because again, I'm not a videographer. And so, with that, it's cool. I know a bit about lighting and that as well to try and get something on the go, but it's how can we piece something together that visually kind of fits the message of what the music's trying to portray? Yeah.
So when I last spoke to you before you actually went to Glasgow and that, I vividly remember you telling me that you were kind of moving away from the performing side of things. Now, I would imagine there's been a switch, obviously, because you're releasing music and that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of ask of what turned you back around to wanting to come back to performing and release music of your own, rather than just sticking to because I remember when we spoke then, it was more, I'm focusing more on the audio side and, producing music rather than releasing my own.
Yeah. I think, it's more just, like I say, being kind of cooped up over the last little while there as well. And just, just when writing the kind of music there as well, I took a break from Sapien briefly, over the summer months there as well. Again, just kind of between coursework and everything there as well. But then as we kind of got into the start of the year, I moved kind of back up there as well. And I had a lot more kind of free time kind of open to me there as well. So I was like, you know what, let's get back at it. And, came back with World War III, which I think, and Good Morning Melancholy. Those were the kind of first two. I actually wrote Good Morning Melancholy first. And then obviously Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, well,
and I was pissed off, and I was like, I want to write a song that's just a F war kind of song. It's on either side, it's just the loss of countless life, and it's Dead Sapien I kind of feel is more of a push towards finding hope in humanity.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of where I kind of came up with the lyrics for that as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to I don't want to say Dead Sapien's anti-establishment, but it's definitely, when we talk about these things like war and that, it's usually decisions of state and hierarchies and that send working class people to go fight each other over reasons that they don't even really know about. And then, like you said, the loss of life and that. But I like how, because one thing, when I was looking up your Spotify, and I believe I seen you quoted this in, I can't remember if it was a newspaper article or a post that one of the radio stations that plays your music said, but it was tackling mental health one track at a time. Does that ring a bell at all? I think I remember that quote somewhere.
So I think that was Metal Rose Media. Because again, when I done, the Good Morning Melancholy release, she'd done a write up on that as well, and I think with that it was when it first started out, it was kind of that as like that's what the focus is there as well. But then I suppose it gets more complex as you kind of dive into it as well. It's not even just about the internal mental. It's about, I suppose the world that's compounding in around us there as well. And, just kind of analyzing that also with like, technology and social media, world events. And it's like, cool, like how is this shaping us? Just came out of, it was like COVID like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, although it's still happening, it's an
endemic thing rather than a pandemic now.
But just with a lot of stuff kind of happening there as well, a lot of people are pissed, a lot of people are worried, and it's really just kind of channeling that energy and putting it into something creative that people can use as an escape if that serves them.
Yeah, man, 100%. And you mentioned energy there, and I think that's an important point. That's what a lot of, I don't want to say mental health is momentum, but it is energy in the sense of a lot of especially over the last few years, I think mental health's accelerated as an issue that's seen by the mainstream, just because more people have been confronted with it, because the response to what's happened over the last couple of years has took people out of stuff that they want to do and stuff they enjoy doing with their life, and it's kind of not forced it upon them, but it's made them more aware of their own mental health, and not just like, oh, these people have mental health problems. It's like everyone has it and it needs to be maintained. And obviously everyone has different circumstances, and you release energy in normal day life with things that you want to do in that. But like you were saying there, like it started with a topic of mental health, and then I guess it, like you said, it just grows into its own kind of beast in the end, really.
Absolutely, yeah. I think when I wrote kind of Good Morning Melancholy, the one that came out back in May, that was more of like, the dual personality of like your online self and your personal self.
Yeah.
Where it's like, obviously online you're showing the best version of you, or like when things are going great, things are going amazing there as well. But in hindsight, I suppose coming into it now, we look into the physical being there as well. And, we may feel quite isolated at times there as well. Although we have friends, it's one of those things where it's still kind of putting up that mask of everything's fine, everything's great. I suppose that kind of is amplified with Meltdown, where it kind of dives more into that, where again you're seeing a lot of stuff kind of happening politically or economically and stuff like that as well, and people are pissed, people are angry, and you're kind of seeing this also on social media there as well. But it's also at the same time it's that weird kind of feeling of just like, oh, everything's good. Like, don't worry about it. Like, just live your best life. And so that was kind of dealing with the duality of like that, of where you've got like on one end of the spectrum of like online, where you've got like, all this, angst and rage, and you got the other half that's just like, oh, like out in the beach in Dubai, just kind of chilling. And so like, again, that's kind of like where I want to kind of like base that on there as well, where it's like kind of feels that you don't really kind of know what to feel anymore with like the likes of like Instagram or anything like that as well.
I think it's definitely it's been the best and the worst thing that happened to society, I believe, social media, because everyone gets a voice, which is great, but at the same time there is that whole looking at a life that, I wouldn't say it's unattainable, but a lot of the time doesn't happen for most people. And people get depressed when they see people on yachts and stuff, like celebrities, I guess you would call it. And it's that whole kind of fear of missing out thing as well that's brought up now, in terms of like people doing stuff and then people seeing that at home and getting depressed. It's a really I don't want to say it's a volatile thing. I think it's almost like social media is a volatile compound, and it needs to be handled very carefully. And humans have never really done well with that kind of stuff over the years in terms of working it out straight away, I suppose. Anyway, but I think there's a lot of toxic stuff that happens on social media, but I also think there's a lot of positive stuff that happens on social media. Right? I don't think it's a black or white thing. I think it's a very big grey area in society, to be honest.
It is, yeah, absolutely, and I agree 100%. I think this was more of a case of, looking at kind of how the algorithm kind of gets us there as well. It's like, let's say, for example, you go to the gym, right? And, you're seeing a bit of results there as well. You flick onto Instagram or TikTok, you go on the reels there as well. All of a sudden you start getting gym memes, but then it's like dudes that are enhanced with maybe steroids. And then a couple of years go by and you're like, why am I not seeing these results there as well? So I think it's also having like that realistic expectation of, what you're kind of seeing, take it with a grain of salt, because this is people putting on a persona, or not even a persona per se, but it's one of those things where it's like you're seeing like the best of them, or maybe even the worst in some cases, if you're kind of seeing reaction videos to things. But it's I think it's kind of putting up those mental filters there as well to separate yourself from the device. And
I think it's becoming more difficult to do that just because virtual and reality are becoming more parallel to each other rather than polar opposites of what they are. And like you say, when people see bodybuilders and stuff like that, a lot of this is like cartoon stuff. Not cartoon stuff in the sense of someone's edited it, but it's enhanced by something, right? It's not the natural form, like you said, with steroids and what have you in that sense. And we always seem to like extremes on social media. It's like either the extreme great side or the extreme bad side. It's why people are so in love with stuff like reality TV and like things like people going through crisis, and people love seeing that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to like be an elitist and say like I don't, because I suppose if it came on the TV, like it piques human interest seeing like crisis or joy,
And I'm the exact same way as well, but like I also hate that I'm also that way as well. It's like I fucking hate myself. But I can't stop scrolling. God damn.
Yeah, man. It's definitely it's a poison chalice a lot of the time. But, like, I do try and avoid it as much as I can, but like you do get indulged. But so let's talk about Meltdown. You have brought the iconic mask with you that is part of the promo. I would say track cover. Would that be the right terminology?
So it's not in the artwork, but it's certainly kind of something that I'm kind of like theming with just now. So the gas mask origin started back in March, I think it was. I was doing some promo photos. I think shortly after World War III, and I think a friend of mine was like, "Oh, cool! Like if you want, I have a gas mask, that he done a post-apocalyptic party a couple of years back, and so he bought one for that. And it's like, if you want to use it, you can use it. I was like, take it along. We'll see what we can do with it. And like the photos turned out great. And I was like, yeah, I think this also sends a good visual for what the music represents. It's one of those things where I'm not doing soft indie. I'm not doing some K-pop stuff where it's all like happy. It's very aggressive, potentially polarizing there as well. And so with that, it's like I want to make sure that when people kind of see the visuals, they're like, "This is for me." Fuck yeah! Sorry, everybody liked it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Say what you want, dude.
Sorry, or like, no, like I'm just like I'm staying clear, and I think that's kind of important when you're kind of trying to kind of get yourself sorted out. And again, this is just my kind of orientation of that. But then, even if you are like an indie band, it's like finding something that you can kind of claim as your own there as well. I mean, I say claim as my own there as well. Again, obviously there's bands beforehand that have used masks and that as well. So Slipknot being the main one there as well. But I suppose with that, you're kind of paying kind of tribute to that as well. Unfortunately I can't sing with the mask on, so it's a good prop in that as well, and it's a good talking point as well. Yeah.
Is it like fun wearing stuff like that? Is it fun doing stuff like promos and artwork? Do you enjoy that? I mean, you probably don't enjoy it as much as actually making the track and whatnot, but is it like a good, because you don't want to get too institutionalized and doing the same thing every day? Is it good to like get away from the music for a bit and actually work on music, but work to a different side of it, I guess, would be the terminology?
So, to be fair, I making music is the thing that I enjoy the most with it as well. However, making music is, I think, the easy part with it. You know, it's the promoting it once the song's out there as well, because again, there's an oversaturation of everything, whether it's media, you know, music, art is in there as well. Because again, obviously the internet has created the opportunity, but in doing so as well, you have to kind of fight more for attention. So really it's the promotion, the market in there as well. And this is something that, although I've been kind of somewhat studying, you know, it's like an interesting hobby over the last like couple of years, it's only quite recently where I've started to like be like, right, cool, like how can we grab people's attention? How can we, you know, make them intrigued to check out the song or check out what Dead Sapien's about and to see if it's for them. That's kind of where I'm kind of at with it.
Yeah, man. So Meltdown, I guess it's a good, especially with the mask as well, it's a good kind of sequel to like the songs that you've been releasing this year, especially like World War III. How did it come about? How long does it take you to like go from an idea to getting it down to then recording, so on and so forth?
It really does depend. So World War III, I think I wrote that in like 2 days. You know, from like start to just about finish, and then obviously like you do like the mix, and so like that was, I think, about like a few days later I kind of finished that there as well. But World War III was, you know, a song that was kind of very fast, and I want to kind of get that done and out around the time of where things were kind of still at their kind of peak of interest there as well.
I was about to say that came out very quickly after the actual, I think it was March time around about then. Yeah.
And that was like cool, like what can I do on my kind of half to get something out? And again, you know, I've got, you know, my ancestors are actually from Ukraine. So again, with that, I kind of had a personal kind of note with that. So I was like, you know what, let's make a song that is, although it seems like a very aggressive song, it's more about the kind of, like you were kind of saying earlier with the words, like it was when the rich declare war, it's the poor who die. And that's what I want to kind of drive the message in there as well, where it's like people don't really know why they're even fighting for it anymore, but like they are. And on either side, regardless of standpoint, it is the people at the bottom that are sacrificing the most.
Yeah, it's the food chain's turned on its head when it comes to sacrifice, I guess, would be the way to describe it, I suppose. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought there. Sorry,
it's all good. But
in terms of like the mental health side of things, one thing that I guess when I spoke to you last, I mean, I know that the track name. It's been a while. That came out. I think that was the only song that had been released when we last spoke. And then For All That Had Fallen came out. World War III, Good Morning Melancholy, and now obviously Meltdown.
Yeah.
But the mental health side of things we didn't really touch on.
No.
And I mean, feel free to share as much or as little as you want. But I wanted to kind of understand a bit of like your mental health experience. I would imagine
absolutely.
Yeah, there has to be like I don't want to say that there has to be like your own story to inspire something like this, but I think like it would make sense.
I mean, yeah, so I suppose it's one of those things where there is a bit of like personality to it there as well that you can have to throw in there as well. But also it's kind of like having that kind of barrier to kind of analyze, you know. So again, I think with Been a While, that was again, it was when we kind of went back into that like lockdown phase, especially in Glasgow, it was like tier 3, and it was like the kind of like the last few months before that were really tough, and I was just like, again, I had a lot of things going to happen, and I was just like, oh, like I'm now out the kind of woods, but let's just like reflect on on how I kind of got through that as well, and but also again, like at the same time, I was hearing about, you know, countless people that had taken their own lives there as well, and I really kind of felt for those there as well, and so, you know, but also I was around the time I was seeing a lot of posts, you maybe relating to mental health there as well. And it was really more of like a viewpoint of, although you're quick to share, when it comes to showing up, how many people are going to shop on the door and actually see if their friend's okay there as well. And that's something that I wanted to kind of like really kind of drive with that song. It's like, raising awareness is cool, but like also like if a friend of yours has the courage to come to you saying that they're not doing good, it's like, are you there for them? And that's kind of what Being a Well wanted to be there as well. For All That Have Fallen kind of solidified that. That was actually the first song that I kind of wrote, but it came out second. So that was in relation to, again, topics of suicide, because again, with the previous tenant in the flat that I was staying in at the time, he had taken his own life, and I was in that room. Well, not with him there, but like again, this is like 2 months later. I had moved in, and I only kind of found out, and I was like, oh, I need to, like, I didn't know that I needed to, but like I was like, he was like, I seen his artwork in the room when I was kind of checking out the flat, and I was like, he was a creative too as well, and just through circumstance of the state of the world, it got too much, and I wanted to kind of create a song for him and everyone else over that kind of period of time that found their moment of weakness, and their moment of weakness was too much for them, and I wanted to kind of really dedicate that song to them, and that's what that one ended up being. And then, like I say, from that, I was like, that was a kind of a heavy kind of few months of just like even like getting into that kind of mind state of writing that. So I was like, right, I'll just kind of focus on a few things there as well. I think things started reopening, and then even the social aspect, you start catching up with friends again, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's now the new year. Where's time gone? And then came back 2022 with obviously World War III there as well. But again, I'd moved back, and I think I was like 3 months back. And like I said, I wrote Good Morning Melancholy before World War III, and that was more of a song of, again, obviously you're kind of like on social media and that as well, and that was kind of a bit of like me missing my friends from back in Glasgow, because again, I wasn't there as much there as well. And again, like, you're seeing stuff, and it's that kind of fear of missing out thing as well, where it's like, it's the whole thing where it's like being in a city where it's very kind of like volatile, vibrant, and like things are kind of happening at fifth gear, to kind of moving back up north where like things are quite slow. It's like things will get done when they get done. Going quite slow. And so like that's kind of what kind of really inspired kind of Good Morning Melancholy. But there's also themes of obviously social media kind of tied in there as well, because again, with the other two, there was that kind of element there as well. So I want to kind of bring that in again. And then obviously I had the weird robotic voice and the breakdown kind of thing there as well, and that was to kind of almost like act as the AI almost.
And because you had a real air raid siren in the World War III track as well.
Yeah.
You proper go into detail of these, but I think that's, anyone can see that from like an outsider looking in, that you put so much effort into these tracks, and you can tell that in the finished product, and that's something that I greatly appreciate about it, that someone that's kind of doing something creative as well. I wouldn't say, I'm not a musician, right? I don't know why I was saying I was kind of a musician, but it's someone that like understands, I guess, kind of what the process is to starting something, to getting something as a finished product. And I wouldn't say it's hard work, but it's time consuming, right? And that can sometimes take its toll on itself. And obviously, like you said, you're going over things and re-editing and that. So taking that time is, because a lot of people get an idea about something and just get excited, like I want to get out as soon as possible, and then sometimes like even like the small things like this in an audio or a frequency or something can really make a big difference. It's what I've learned, at least anyway. I know that sounds really kind of predicate in that, but it's true from having been kind of through my trials and tribulations with it myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's exactly it, to the point of where like so when I announced that Meltdown was coming out, I posted it onto the distribution site, date was set. I was like, I can breathe now. And I think I was busy most of the day. I didn't actually fully listen to like what I kind of wrote. Like I listened to it, but then I think at that point there I had ear fatigue. I didn't rest, come back, listen to it, and was just like, that's the song. I was like, cool, like that sounds cool. I think I'm happy. cool, submit, done, woo.
Yeah.
I checked again. I think at like 10:30 at night, and I was like, oh my god, I hate it. I hate it. I was like, well, like I've uploaded this mix, and like, no, it's not the one. So like again, I pulled it back off the distribution site, and for done a couple tweaks there as well, and I messaged the guy that I got to master Good Morning Melancholy, Joel Wanasek. He's kind of based in the stateside. For those that don't know, he does a lot of like rock and metal acts, big bands there as well. And so I messaged him and I was like, oh, what's your availability like to master a track? Are you free over the next couple of days? And he's like, I'm free right now. Get it over. I'm like, all right, cool. So done. We
transferred. Let's go.
Absolutely. I got that back around like 11:30. I gave it a listen, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Re-uploaded it, done, and that was that as well. But
that's crazy to think that it could be transferred halfway across the world. It's just like that's the beauty of modern technology, suppose, right? Like it's something that's not been an asset to people like music, especially independent musicians. Obviously, it's a massive plus.
Well, that's it as well. You're not limited by area and choice in that area anymore as well. It's like if you really want to work with somebody halfway across the world, you can, and you can get the results back fast if they've got the ethic to kind of do that as well. And so, that's something that I could have started doing as well. With my masters, is getting them done externally, because again, with that, it's nice to get a fresh pair of ears on the track after I've kind of spent hours just arranging the composition, retracking all the guitars and bass and vocals and that as well, editing them, then mixing them, and then I'm like, you spent a lot of time with that track, and so like you almost get used to the things that aren't necessarily great for the track. You're like, oh, it's fine, and then your brain's like, oh, it's fine. It's because obviously repetition. You're like, this is good. You've heard the track about like 50,000 times. And,
100%. You could drive yourself insane sometimes, but just like when I do this, when I'm editing the audio, I'm listening through headphones with like a parametric equalizer, thinking things back and forth. For then, like I remember when I was first learning that, like I'd find myself like at 12 in the morning in here, like like saying something for a minute. Just so I could play it back to them and be like, where's the sweet spot for this? And although I believe it's paid off at the end, it is like, I do realize that I've got to kind of give myself some self-care there with not over-obsessing over something like that. Do you know what I mean? At the same time.
Yeah, but I think was it Mahali, Sixing Mahali with flow? Like when you're in flow state, time is irrelevant. And and like you blink and you're like, how is it 3 a.m? I should probably go to sleep. I've got like, maybe like work in the morning.
I've got like work at like 9. Yeah, totally.
But I suppose that's kind of what's considered to be happiness, is when you're kind of in that kind of state and you're in the present. So if editing brings you joy, then
yeah, man. Well, like I think it was just I wanted it to be right. I was like, I know I have the tools to make it right, because I used to use a lot of the processing on the audio interface.
Yeah,
and then I decided that was a bit. There was just something about it. Like I was hearing I didn't want to compare it to other more well-known, bigger financed stuff, because I knew that I'm at a disadvantage there anyway, because they have more gear, they have the ability to, whatever, right? But I knew that the power that I had in this thing, that I could do better and I could take control of it a bit more, rather than just, which if someone wants to use the processing on this and just wants to get something out there, that's great. It's a great thing for that. But I got to the point where at the start, it was kind of hard to get a video and audio file to synchronize together to now like color correcting stuff. Like, I made that joke last time, but it is like crazy how much I've invested into that to the point that I'm actually trying to like become a certified professional in the sector now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have full control of it. And even though that takes a little bit more time, I would rather that than have something that I feel like, I've cut corners there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think especially if it's a field that you're going to try to go into, like again, with the Sapien stuff, just now it's mostly myself for everything there as well. But then that's with the hope that it's like in time you can trust people to outsource in time if like success gets to that point where like you can do that. because again, there's only 24 hours in a day, and ideally I would love to spend most of that time, being creative and doing music. But then obviously, there's the promotion aspect of things there as well, or it's like putting together like a video, or like a thing where it's like the Dead Sapien melting out now. Or,
Yeah.
it's like, and like cool, that's like 2-3 hours, and like you spend that time like working on it, and you're like, yeah, I'm happy with that. You post it, and it's like 3 likes. You're like,
yeah.
for what? No, but like I suppose that's just it as well. And but that's also good as well, because it means that's like cool, like people don't really want to necessarily see that per se. It was like, well, what do they want to see? And this is something that I'm just trying to kind of figure out as well. It's
attention spans are getting shorter by the day as well. I think we have to understand. Yeah. I mean, like in terms of social media, when we put the preview clips out, and I've literally got it muted because I don't want to over obsess with like, oh, notification, you know what I mean? Like and humans are naturally drawn to that. Do you know what I mean? It's good to see someone compliment your work by giving it a like, and that, as much as people will be like, oh, that's sad that you're thinking about it like that. But it is though, because it's a good parameter of what you're, the product that you're delivering, I suppose.
Yeah, the data doesn't lie.
Yeah, man.
And it can be brutal as well, like especially with like, like you launch a song, and again, Spotify for artists, you can see like the daily kind of stats, demographics, everything there as well.
Same with it's on Anchor, isn't it?
Yeah, Anchor as well. And you're like you look back on that, and you're just like, maybe like you're having an off day, but like you're still like, and as well, I think for like Spotify, after like the first week of launch, it's usually about like 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock is when they'll kind of launch yesterday's stats of like who's listened to it. Again, it doesn't give obviously names, but it's just like, like, oh cool, like X amount of people's listened to the track. You've got this amount of streams or new followers, or and then they'll show you maybe like a ratio of like male, female, non-binary, non-specific, and so like that's kind of cool to know as well. It's like, cool, like who's listening, how old are they roughly? Again, you got age brackets there. But yeah, it can be brutal sometimes where you put all that labor into something, and then you see that, and you're just like, we just got to keep working. We just got to keep, and with the hopes that it's like, because you've done the work now, and you're kind of trying some new things that people have still got it to go back to in time. The fact that it's done, it's out, it's something that they can always go back to there as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a lot of musicians may get down on that they're, maybe their first couple singles or few singles aren't doing what they expected. But then I suppose they've got to kind of realize as well, it's like, cool, like what can we do to try and make the next one a bit better? And, the song is still out there, so just because it's not doing well just now doesn't mean that maybe in a year's time
it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's social media and the internet in general can feel like a bit of a sprint in tandem. Like you see, especially with like the emergence of stuff like TikTok, like so social media has always been a game about grabbing people's attention for the shortest period of time possible, because then they'll watch the full thing, and there's the algorithm, and then it recommends to more people, and yada yada yada. And Instagram kind of started it with its video, and it's like every social media has designed the platform now around videos that are getting shorter. You'll see like with TikTok, like a lot of them are 5, 10 seconds, 15 perhaps, and that stuff is like absolute. That's where like the main attention is now, I believe, is on that specific site.
Well, that's what I've kind of moved on to recently, mostly. So again, for the last kind of like week or two, I've just been kind of going heavy on TikTok, because that's where people are kind of mostly now as well. And I'm still using like the other socials, but I think it's more for well, certainly Facebook's kind of more for like when kind of milestones kind of happen, so people can kind of see that. Instagram more kind of acting as like an aesthetic shop window. And then TikTok is literally like, all right, cool. And I'm aiming to try and make at least one a day now. And it could be anything. It could be like, like I'd done an Instagram live last week, and I'd also done the guitar playthrough of like Meltdown. And Millie ended up coming into the shop halfway through, and I'm looking back, and I'm like, cool. So like, again, I didn't post the full live stream after. I was like, cool, like saved it, and chopped that up into a few things there as well. So like, cool, like you can post that onto your feed, and that's like 2-3 days worth of kind of stuff there to kind of add there as well, to add as like filler until the next big thing comes up. Like I say, like yesterday I shot the vocal one take for Meltdown against the Grain, And that was interesting because again I had my in-ear monitors in there as well and the microphone, and I was just giving it a ham.
Yeah.
And there's people like walking by looking in, and I'm just like waving like, "How's it going? You good?" You know, like because like proper like everything's great. You know, like
You ever seen someone do death metal in a shop before?
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, like even that, you know, there's the acapella stuff there where you know you can chop some of that up there as well, and like you know use that as like you know a funny video or like something to kind of keep on top of mind. You know, I think that's the thing. You know, even with like larger artists, it's making sure that they're kind of top of mind, and that's I think what most music's always kind of been that per se.
It's always been in the media and culture, right? Music. It's always had a very strong relationship with that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like you know trying to kind of stay relevant and true to your kind of fan base and audience there as well. Or if you're still kind of establishing a fan base, it's like why should people care about? Because the music and just now is just not enough, you know. Because again, we're now entering the over the last certainly like you know maybe like 7 years. We're entering the audio visual world where it's like people don't, unless you're in a car, unless you know you're at the gym or you're maybe on a walk and you've got some headphones in, but even then like your choices are things like podcasts now as well, and you know and stuff like that as well. So there's so much choice for people to
so much content out there for people to engage with.
Yeah,
and like you even see it with like mainstream stuff. Like when I was younger or 10 years ago, even a lot of kind of stuff around music centered around like I guess we go to reality TV again with stuff like X Factor and that show's been cancelled now. And I don't think it's for any of the antics it pulled or how it made people look or anything. I think it's just simply because there's not a market for that now because people aren't watching television as much. Someone put it. I was watching an interview with, I don't know if you ever remember Larry King, the American interviewer. Yeah. He was speaking to an entrepreneur and he was like, the TV will become the radio and the phone will become the TV. And that's exactly what's happened. You know, like if you're listening to a podcast or watching a music video or on Spotify, it's all through a mobile device now, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think back to that kind of X Factor point there as well. I was listening to a podcast like literally like 2 weeks back, and the guy I think managed to get the opportunity to meet Simon Cowell, and in chatting to him, he was like obviously on about like you know oh cool reaching. It's like oh cool like when X Factor was in its prime, I think there was about like 27 million weekly listeners. And then towards the end of the series that as well, it was like 1.2, something like that, you know. And so like you see the fall there as well, because again, people maybe are still watching shows, but again, people probably aren't watching on conventional television anymore.
They're watching on streaming services,
Netflix, Disney Plus, you know, Prime.
How many? There's so many of them. Like it's absolutely crazy.
That's it. And now it's to the point now where people are like, you know, like, oh, you've not seen that? It's like, which platform is it on now? Like, it's on Disney Treble Plus. It's like, fuck.
Yeah. It's like I like Star Wars as much as the next guy, but I can't be £4.15 above the top of my Netflix and Amazon Prime. You know?
To be fair, like, I've been catching up with the Star Wars stuff. That's but funnily enough, though, again, for all that fallen, the last lyric is actually a Star Wars Clone Wars reference.
Oh,
yeah. Again, I'm a big Star Wars nerd myself, but. Yeah, so I think it's season 5, episode 10. It's Sunny Day in the Void, and it basically tells the story of like this like they're on like a recon mission that goes wrong.
Because it's the animated series, the Clone Wars, isn't it? Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah. But essentially, they land on this planet, like the crash land, and it's like this little alien with these droids, and again, the droid are struggling to understand why this man is so doom and gloom because he's like. The end is nigh. I'm going to die on this planet there as well. And they're like, what's this guy's problem? And I, you know, with relation to, you know, like us, you know, like versus kind of like AI and stuff like that as well. I was like, I could see like a cool parallel with that as well, and kind of find that quite inspiring. So I was like, cool, like I'm going to use, and it bizarrely kind of worked with the end of the song. So I was like, you know what, let's just like give it a go and just put that in. But yeah, fun fact of for all that fall.
Yeah, dude, it's cool to have like those. Easter eggs, hidden meanings behind songs, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to ask is, so recently, I say recently, 6 months ago now, they released a video kind of option for podcasts on Spotify, right? So I'm wondering if something similar must be coming for songs, for like music videos and stuff like that. I don't know if there's any word on that, but I thought it made sense.
Yeah. So I know currently Spotify does Spotify Canvas, which is like that 8-second thing there as well. Also, if any independent artist is not using a Spotify Canvas, get it done.
Yeah. Would that be like the kind of animation that's happening over the song looped? Yeah.
Because apparently due to Spotify's own figures, it increases the likelihood of people actually like staying on the song or even sharing the song by like 130%.
Damn.
Because again, it adds a bit of personality to the track there as well. So when people are sharing that on their feed, they're seeing that as well. And it's almost like, like a bragging right thing there as well, where it's like, cool, like check this out. Like my feed looks cool. And then, and again, and so like, even if it's just like an enlarged version of the artwork with like some effect over it, like anything, like, because it's so easy to kind of do there as well. And, it could help, boost
audience for the song.
Audience,
definitely. And funnily enough, like before, like I started this, for example, I remember actually coming to you for advice on how to like get a podcast on Spotify, because you have the Dead Sapien podcast. I even remember the days of the Collab Collective, if you remember when you were doing that. And
Collab Collective too.
SoundCloud was it on?
I was in SoundCloud to start with, yeah.
Yeah, because nowadays it's like Anchor just puts it everywhere. You put it into Anchor and it will go. Like, I've got a similar thing to what you were talking about, the analytics side of things, but it's obviously a little bit different. It's the same age demographic, who's been listening from where, percentages and whatnot. Apparently we have a good percent from Virginia in America. Don't know why, but like,
that's Virginia.
Country road. But like it shows you what platforms it's on as well. And the main thing I wanted it to go on was Spotify, right? And then I think I ticked a bunch of other options. I was like, whatever, as long as like it's going where people are potentially going to listen, it's cool. It's not the main thing, because I enjoy this process. I enjoy having conversation and that, but at the same time, like, you do things with purpose behind it, right? You do it for the enjoyment, which isn't a purpose, but you also do it because you want to. I don't want to sound cynical, but you want to be rewarded for the effort you're putting into something that's a big part of your life, right? In a way, I know that sounds a bit cliche, but
I mean, I suppose that's kind of like a more of a hope thing with any venture. It's like you're putting the risk in, and your risk is your time, right? And you hope that it's reciprocated through others enjoying it there as well. But I suppose equally so with that as well, it's I think simply the act of doing is no longer enough there as well. It's trying to kind of back it up with, the promo side, where it's like, it adds more personality in why people would want to kind of check out there as well. And
it's definitely that kind of YouTube age, isn't it? Of like relevancy and all these kind of words that are flung about. But to get back to my point with the analytics thing, I was having a look through, and there was like people, I've said this numerous times, but there was like people in like Asia and the Philippines and that, and I know that's probably them just turning on for 10 seconds, but it blew my mind that like it's being heard that like half, like what the kind of stuff that I'm saying in my garage is like being heard like halfway across the world. And I guess it's like the same for you when like I seen a radio station in America is playing Meltdown just now and stuff like that. You were sharing the other day.
So it's amazing radio. I think they do like a UK and US kind of thing there as well. But it was on one of their kind of playlists there as well. And I'm like, cool. Like we'll take that as well. And it's try kind of just get word out and continue.
It is cool though, because I think I brought this up last time, but I remember when you were in Dissuade, the band, and I remember you coming in with t-shirts and that, and you were showing me that one of your tracks had been played at the shirts, the website,
Sapien.com/shop.
That will be linked in the description. But I've been looking at the website recently. I'll have to get myself one of those t-shirts. But
what size are you, man?
I think I'm a large nowadays. I've lost a bit of dress sizes over the years, but so just to like even think that it's like that your voice is being heard. I know that sounds a bit narcissistic in a way, like, oh, my voice is being heard halfway across the world, but it's like, it's just a bit surreal, like it's one of those things where it's, people are hearing that from across the world and they're
potentially tuning in and listening and enjoying potentially as well. And I think that's kind of any kind of creative want is for that, as well as, like, you spend time on something, you put a lot of like labor and love into it, and you hope that it's reciprocated by people, and to have that beyond your own culture into cultures from around the world as well. That's
a powerful thing.
It's quite comforting.
Yeah. And like, I'm always interested because it is the internet. Like, I've always prepared myself for the worst, because the internet, like we said, it could be a positive place, but it could be a very dark, toxic place at the same time.
So like I say, I've been more on TikTok there as well. I think I'd done one where it was like, cool, like, I don't know what to do today. I'll do like a crappy one, which is like, oh, cool, I'm drinking a coffee. And I was like, who else? And I down the coffee. It was cool, because again, like, I always forget my coffee, so I'm like working away, and I'm like, oh, it's been 4 hours, cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool, like, who else needs a minimum of 4 coffees to be a functioning human being? And someone commented on it as like, what in millennial? And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, it's like, but I knew exactly what it meant, and I was crushed for like half that day. I was like, no. It's like, I'm getting older.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is crazy how quickly time's going. Like, I remember thinking to myself when like I turned 18 and you first start going to the pub and simple things like that. You just think, oh, this time's never going to end. And then like, you see people from like 2005 rocking up there and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how like your era of, I wouldn't say era of prime, because we're like late 20s, mid 20s.
Mid 20s, yeah.
I will say mid 20s.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just over 25.
Yeah. It's crazy how like it's gone in a flash, and I think that's probably one thing that's kind of made me think, at least, like, if not now, when? Because I think I tried to do something like this a few times before, and I hadn't really researched it. It was more like an off the cuff kind of idea.
Yeah.
And for this time, I was like, I'm going to research the entire thing, make sure that for my budget and for what I want it to be a good product, that it's something that I can do and learn about it and whatnot. And I think that I've achieved that in a sense. And I suppose it was probably similar when you were talking about, I don't want to say it was an epiphany moment, but when you had that realization that you wanted to release music, that was what you wanted to do again. And
it was definitely a slow burner. I think there's a great book by Stephen Johnston. It's Where Good Ideas Come From. Highly recommend it. But essentially, I think the paragraph was on, the chapter was on like a slow hunch, where it's like, it's been in your head for potentially years, right?
Yeah.
Incubating in that as well, and then you think that it's an instantaneous like boom, you're hitting the ground running. It's like, no, chances are you've been thinking about it, or it's been in the subconscious for a while. There's been things that have built up to this moment there as well. Like, although Dead Sapien's technically been on the go since 2021, I've been thinking about it, I think, since like 2018, 2017 there as well, with the name actually Dead Sapien. And I was like, oh, cool, if I was to launch a project, it'd be Dead Sapien next, and it'd be like hard rock and that as well. And at first I was like trying to get members together. I was like writing songs, the songs sucked. And I was like never happy with them, and I was like, oh, this is, and so like, again, it took time just of like writing subpar songs to get to a point where I'm like, all right, cool, like I'm somewhat happy with this. Let's just get it out there and see what people think. But yeah, probably with yourself with the podcast there as well. You had a couple podcasts beforehand there as well to test the idea, and then you're like, oh, cool, like
yeah, because I remember Rambling On. Do you remember
Rambling On?
Rambling On was not as it was. I mean, you see this in video, but if you were ever to come across Rambling On, it wasn't in video. But to set the scene for you, it was I believe it was in my bedroom, you had to bring your own microphone, and my microphone stand was in the box that it came in. Yeah, different times. We all start somewhere, I suppose. But I to be honest, I enjoy looking back at those times. You know what I mean? Because I guess it was like you said, the slow burn, I guess the sprouting of what this has become now, which is obviously something that I'm happy doing. In terms of Meltdown, just going back to that for a second. So you were kind enough to send me the link to the song as soon as it dropped. And the first thing that I said back to you was like, wow, that song is like, that gets you pumped up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, and that's kind of another reason why I wrote it. Because again, I'm hopefully planning on going live towards the end of the year. And I was
awesome,
like,
dude.
And I was like, I need a song that is just going to get people
energy,
raging, and just like, like again with the intro, for those that haven't heard it, you got these like almost like war drums that are like, and again, and it's like you got the meltdown, the guitars kick in, the full band, and you get hit with this wall of sound. When I kind of wrote that bit, I was like, cool, like I'm just imagining myself when I shout meltdown, I throw myself into the crowd. Yeah. And again, and I wrote it with like that in mind. I was like, cool, that's the song where like you're like there, and then again, like like creating that kind of visual imagery of like, cool, like you're performing that song, and people try to grab the mic.
Yeah.
Although that would be, although in reality it'll probably like Jack Black, where I throw myself at the crowd and I just like
Jack Black's awesome.
Like
though,
School
man.
Rock, just like but yeah, that's kind of like when I wrote the song there as well, and I was just wanting stuff where it was just like, it was like a roller coaster where like like strap yourself in, and we'll see you on the other side of it as well.
Yeah, totally.
So
how does that differ? Like, because a lot of the musicians I've had on, the kind of common theme of songwriting has been like, I just play and see what comes to mind. But I would imagine it would have to be different for metal, right?
There's a bit of that, but then also there's like, like once you kind of start getting on the idea, it's like, cool, like how, and it's like, like how can I make this translatable or relatable in such in an environment? It's like, what's the visual aspect that I want to see with this? Like if I was to play this song live, what would I want to kind of see with this live? What would I want to hear if this was live? And how can I emulate that in the mix so that when people are listening to it, they're just like, they're like, whoa,
damn.
I'm working on single number 6 just now, Perfect Being, and there's like a there's the drop is just it's ludicrous, man. Like things cut out and you're like what's going on, and all of a sudden like it's just like a sucker punch to the face. You're just like and then all of a sudden like you're in 5th gear and you're like what's that doing? I don't like this. But in a good way. But
it's awesome to see, man, because like I know I'm kind of going on a bit of a nostalgia trip here, but I remember like seeing you like do open mic nights and stuff like that. So to like see you releasing music now and talk about this in such great depth and passion from when you were just starting out, and obviously before we actually went on, you were talking about you're going down to London next year.
Yeah.
I take it, is that to continue in the audio side of things?
That's the plan, man. Yeah. So again, part of the reason why I've kind of moved back up north is to keep overheads low. Just kind of staying with the folks for a bit, saving up and finishing the course off. Get some kind of capital built up there as well to reinvest back into Sapien, and get some money saved aside for London there.
Dude. So when do you reckon that would be happening if it did go ahead? Would that be next year time or
aiming for next August? Yeah.
So it'd be like around the time the universities kick in and stuff like that. Yeah.
Pretty
totally,
much. Totally. Yeah. So that's the kind of plan there as well. Glasgow was it's fantastic there as well, but I suppose there was times as well where like it also got too close as well, where it almost felt like a bit like almost like a town at some point.
Yeah.
Which sounds strange, but like I think I kind of thrive in like volatile atmospheres, and with like obviously London, there's like a million things happening, things are going a million miles a minute, and that's something that I at least need to try. I think what you were kind of saying earlier with like, we're getting to that kind of point now where it's like, if not now, then when.
Yeah.
And
I think that's all like a comfort zone thing a lot of the time, isn't it? No one's saying that getting out of your comfort zone isn't a scary thing. It isn't a fearful thing. Like I think feeling fear doesn't have to be a negative.
I think absolutely. It's one of those things where your body sometimes like rejects it with a screaming passion. You're like, maybe you should just like do nothing today.
Just don't leave your room. Don't get out of bed.
and then you're gonna be like, shut the fuck up. Right? Yeah. Like it's not that easy. Like it's taken like ages to get to that point. And I think it's just like every day just trying a bit. I think there's a great one, another great book by Seth Godin. It's the practice. It's like showing up every day to any capacity. It's like even if you're kind of like, if it's something that you genuinely want to do. It's showing up in one way, even if it's just like, cool, like I don't have the strength to like be creative. It's like, cool, well, what can we do to try and like learn? Can you pick up the guitar today? It's like, I can pick up the guitar today. Can you just like do some noodling? I could do some noodling. Oh, that idea is pretty cool. Oh,
Yeah,
so
then
maybe I should. And
the external kind of anxiety and the thought process of telling yourself you can't do something that then kind of melts away almost, and kind of getting yourself stuck into it. And even just like certain things like, I don't want to go too deep here, but even like certain things like addiction, right? Like I've stopped smoking like a month and a half ago now, right? And I was like a massive smoker for like, not a massive smoker, but I was like 10 years of doing it. Was like a routine. I don't want to make it sound that this is going to sound a bit sad, but I guess it was part of my life in a way, right? And there has been like moments of when I thought to myself, oh, I'm not going to be able to do the podcast now. Like I gave it so much credit for what I was doing. Like I'd give it this power that that somehow it was helping me in a way. In reality, it's not. It was just kind of my brainwashing, if anything.
Yeah.
And I think like the reason that I knew that I had to stop is like when I got COVID, right? And I didn't get COVID bad or anything. I wasn't ill, but there was a period where it like sucked, right? I had like a pretty bad headache and whatever, and I didn't leave my couch for like 10 hours. But the only time that I got up was to go for a cigarette. And I'm like, I'm putting myself in physical torture to do this.
Like you've got the strength to like
exactly. And I was like, I can't let this thing have that much power over me. So I've been practical and put it into action, and it's been a journey and like an experience of like, wow, like it feels like there's something missing, but there's not. Like every time I do one of these now, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know,
that's your new cigarette, man. You know,
it's the exact same experience as what it was when I was doing it. You know what I mean? And that kind of picture in my head of, oh, it's going to be horrible, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore, and all that kind of stuff. But that's obviously a different example. But in terms of like a creative side of things, I guess that I'm interested in how I communicate with people I don't know, because when I first started this, it was like I had Sean, I had yourself on and that, and even though we have great conversations and that, you know, we're friends, do you know what I mean? So like there's a kind of safety net there anyway, whereas it started becoming people that I didn't know, I was like, how's this going to work and that, but it's turned out okay, I think, and I am proud of myself for pushing forward. But so back to Meltdown again. When I first listened to it, and obviously I said back to you that it was something that got you pumped up. You said it yourself, but I was thinking it at the time. It's very much like that Foo Fighters genre, you know, that Dave Grohl. It reminded me a lot of almost The Pretender in a way, you know, when it goes heavy.
To be fair, it's again, I'm a big Foo Fighters fan there as well. You know, obviously there's that kind of like, it's like Monkey Wrench, One Last Thing Before I Quit, I Never Would, but it's like it's that, but like pretty much constantly, you know, where like it's just like, you know, it's so again, I recorded in the studio. I done the vocal one take yesterday, and like mostly nailed it. There's a few, but because I'm moving around there as well, there's bits where like I'm trying to like get to that range, and it's like the voice just goes like and dips down. But I think that also kind of adds character to, like, you know, it's like, cool, this is just like it's a live one take. But yeah, it's definitely like channeled that kind of like inner Dave Grohl with that one, you know. But I didn't, although I didn't think at the time. There's been quite a few folk that I've kind of like referred to it as like, oh, cool, it's like a hardcore punk Dave Grohl song. I'm like, cheers, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the website, man. Like I came across it the other day. I didn't realize you had a website set up, and I was having a look through it. I seen, obviously you're selling t-shirts. I've seen that they're £25, I believe.
Yeah, £25. So those ones are tie-dye. I'm doing a second t-shirt soon with hoodies as well in the near future.
Oh, I'll take a hoodie for sure.
Yeah, man. I'll show you them after this as well. Can't show them just yet. But, maybe
the perks of the job.
If you're watching this video in like the near future, check out Sapien.com. You may see it there.
It will be linked in the description, as we said.
But yeah, so like with that, I got a friend of mine, Freya, to. Do you see like the kind of gas mask shot?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So basically, she done like line work of like that. So it's like that, but it's more like line work art style with like a rectangular border.
Is she doing that through like Photoshop or?
I think she's doing it like So she's kind of doing that with a transparent background there as well, and then send that to myself. And then so you put that on the back with like the Dead Sapien in larger kind of font, and then also you'll have like the Dead Sapien on the left bar. So that'll be like t-shirts, and that'll be hoodies. Just kind of like
guitar picks as well, is it?
No, because again, like a lot of these kind of merch sites don't do amazing guitar picks, and one thing that I want to kind of tie in with Dead Sapien is quality.
Quality, yeah, 100%.
And that's, whether it's, whatever I kind of do sell as merch, I'm hoping that it kind of lasts years and it's not just like something you kind of wear, which is kind of why, like, again, the tie-dye t-shirt is the price that it's at, is because, again, like, I paid a lot more for, going small batch and going for the best quality that I could find there as well for it. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. So when do you reckon you'll be out playing live? Mentioned it.
So it kind of depends on when promoters kind of want me to know.
Yeah.
I need to start reaching out to them soon. Like I say, I've got single number 6 coming out, and that'll kind of take my set list to around 20 minutes, maybe 25. And I need to make a stage file. So again, just something where it's like, like you've got the backing tracks, and then I've got like a metronome like playing in my ear, and then I'll probably sing to the backing tracks to start with. And until I can get members on board, I'm kind of happy to just kind of do the solo thing and that as well until I get I get the right people on board.
Yeah, is the end? I don't want to say the end goal, because obviously I don't think there is an end goal when it comes to creativity. I think it's an ongoing thing. But is an album or an EP something that you would like to eventually get done?
So just now I'm doing singles. Just kind of just kind of like I'm in my kind of embassy there as well. I think with this new single that's coming out, Perfect Being, it'll be coming out in maybe like a month and a half or so. That I'll probably round off together, so you'll have like World War III, Good Morning Melancholy, Meltdown, and Perfect Being. And then I'll see whether or not I want to kind of add on to that. I might do like a thing where it's like a mixtape kind of thing, like where it's where like like a lot of rap artists where like they'll maybe do like singles, but it's not. Although there's a relative part of coherency to it, it's more of a case of getting the songs out there as well. I might do like 7-8 tracks and put that together towards the end of the year as just like, all right, cool, like this is the Dead Sapien like mixtape 1 or whatever. And then
how do you reckon, like, going out live, do you reckon you'd be like an opener for someone, or do you reckon it would just be like your own gig?
It depends on really kind of where they want me. It's again, I know that I've not played live with Sapien before, and usually with it relies mostly on a more local scene of ticket sales. So it really depends on ticket sales, on where your lineup position may be there as well. So yeah, kind of just depends on how it takes off there as well. But for just now, getting the songs out, getting the promo done, and just getting things rolling.
Would you, like, I mentioned this last episode, but like there was that Mark Murray festival recently, right?
Yeah.
And one of the kind of, I don't want to say I had beef with it or anything, because obviously people wanted to see some of those acts and had a good time and everything, rightfully so, but I would like to see something like that try and help local performers out as well and try and get them like a gig there and whatnot, because I think there is going to be interest for that. That's like my personal belief anyway. Because I mean, I don't want to like, I feel like I'm throwing shade at the likes of the Venga Boys and that, but like, it did seem like that was to get a bunch of bands that were needing a gig. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that I think when it's something like a remote area like Murray, where a lot of musicians are playing pubs or playing venues like that, like, I haven't had people like Chris Grant, Scott Ramsey on and that. I'm following them on Facebook, and they're literally gigging every single day. To like Craigellachie and to Dundee, not just even in Murray. So I would like to see something like that to get them that kind of exposure to like a public audience. Is that something that you would think would be a good thing for local performers?
I think it depends, and the reason I think for it is, I think when we look at Murray's demographic, although there is younger people here, I think the swing goes more towards those that are maybe at an
retiring,
age of 40s and up potentially, for the majority swing. I could be wrong, but like that's what it kind of seems like. And so I think with that, you have to look at it from like a business perspective as well, where it's like maybe like a second stage type thing, where like you've got like the main stage, and like maybe like across there as well, where like if people don't want to see the Venga Boys or Bob Geldof, they can check out a band that's playing there as well.
Yeah, dude.
But but then equally so, it's like how big's their local audience as well? Like, how many people are they going to bring in there as well? Like, I can imagine like the likes of the Roof being on that bill. You know, like obviously like they've got like a good Murray following there as well.
Yeah, and they've been on the go for probably over a decade now, obviously, because they've rebranded, I guess they would call it. They were Peruvia, and obviously now they're the Roof.
Absolutely, yeah.
Scott Ramsey played Belladrum a couple of weeks ago. Congratulations, Scott, if you're watching. But I was gonna ask as well before you go, because we've been going for about an hour 10 minutes nearly.
Jeez,
time flies, man.
That was a quick one, yeah.
You're going to be kind enough to give us an acoustic version of Good Morning Melancholy.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, we can have like a minute break, because I'll transition the song in.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because the last, I used to be an avid listener to the Dead Sapien podcast.
Yeah.
I still am, but there hasn't been an episode for about a year. I think July last year was the...
Yeah, with in the Gaffo Pandas.
Yes,
yeah.
And I was just going to say, as like I don't want to confront you with this in public, not public, but in front of the internet, I suppose. But like, if you ever want to bring that back, I'm like looking to take other podcasts on and stuff like that to keep editing and that. So feel free to use the studio, and I could cook someone up for you and whatever with editing and whatnot, if you want to bring the Dead Sapien podcast back, because I would love to get more local podcasts back on the go. So that was my kind of little input there to try and revive the Dead Sapien podcast.
To be fair, it has crossed my mind recently in there as well. To what capacity it comes back, I think what I may do is like behind the tracks and stuff like that as well, and maybe it'll make it a little more like updates as to what's going to happen in there as well, almost maybe like an Audible newsletter potentially. I'm still kind of figuring out, again, it was like yourself, you took some time out to do some research on it there as well, but also I think I say time as well, but like it's I'm still trying to figure out whether or not people would want it back in some capacity, and if so, what is that as well. And with that, I think what I've kind of found challenging with it as well was, I suppose finding kind of guests with what the original message of it was, which was, people, around the creative or inspiration side of Sapien there as well. So we'll see. I think for just now, at the moment, the main focus is, the music and getting that kind of solid there as well.
But if you do bring it back, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll help you out.
Sick, man.
So thank you very much for coming back on, dude. It's great to see you again in person. Obviously, last time I was probably still in the infancy of starting this up, and even though Zoom was great, the audio can get a bit choppy. So I didn't have ISO drivers then. That's a thing now. To where I don't know what it is. I mean, I complain about it. It's a gripe that I constantly have, but you know how like a lot of the time Mac isn't as good as PC for most things. Like 99% of the time you want like a Windows computer to do what you want to do for most things. Yeah. The one thing that is Mac seems to have over it is it correlates an audio interface better through we're recording this on Adobe Audition right now, but audio software. And for the life of me, I was having these exchanges with Rode microphones in Australia. So like I'd be waiting, I'd be waking up and they'd email me back like 4:30 in to tell me like, oh, try this. And I'll try it. Like I've got to wait another 24 hours.
Like you're talking to a ghost.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But I finally got it working. So it's okay now. But shout out to Rode microphones and that for helping me out on that one. But without further ado, I am going to mute my microphone, my friend. And you will now be listening to Cameron Simpson playing an acoustic version of Good Morning Melancholy.
Cool. Let's just try and get... We good? Nice one. Nervously anxious at the same time. It feels like I am dying as the system been upgraded. Echo chamber, feed me thoughts again. Addicted to you like it's everything. I wanna change my ways, self-medicated. Says I'm better off this way. And I can do anything without getting bored, out getting good. Morning melancholy. Still feel it, no, still feel like everybody so far away. Everybody's so far away, and I'm hating every second of it. I need an algorithm to tell me what I like. Feed me with narcissistic tendencies and skin over my eyes. See what everybody else does. One string of thought, that's all they ever fucking want, and I can't do anything with it. I get him, but I get in good morning melancholy. Still feel like everybody so far away. Everybody's so far away. Hating every second of it. When nothing really matters anymore. And I can't do anything without getting, but I get in good morning melancholy. Still feel like everybody's so far away. Everybody's so far away, and I'm hating every second of it. Thanks.
Awesome, dude.
Cool.
Yes.
Next one is Meltdown. Meltdown, circle the drain. Meltdown, feel everything. Meltdown till you feel nothing. Meltdown, meltdown. Find my anger in a sea of dread and made my bed. Diving into entropy, I know the consequences can be great. Before I fade away, never had the chance to say, I'm tired of this life, nothing's changed to lose in my mind. Should I just go insane and let this world ride out my brain? Try not to melt down, fighting with your head now. Cause no one's gonna save you from yourself. Try not to melt down, fighting with your head now. It's something to believe in, something just to keep you holding on. But more, I'll break your fucking neck. It's do or die and they are killing for the content. Overwhelming on a pay is my fantasy. When is the money when you're paying exposure? Guess I'm tired of this life. Nothing's changed to lose in my mind. Should I just go insane and let this world ride out my brain? Try not to melt down, fighting with your no. Cause no one's gonna save you from yourself. Try not to melt down, fighting with your no. Need something to believe in, something just to keep you holding on. Keep you holding on. To keep you holding on. Keep you holding on. Everything's fine and everything's great. Everything's fine, everything's great. Everything's fine and everything's great. Everything's fine and everything's great. Everything's fine, everything's great. Everything's fine and everything's great. Everything's fine and everything's great. Try not to melt down, fighting with your no. Cause no one's gonna save you from yourself. Try not to melt down, fighting with your no. Need something to believe in, okay. Something just to keep you holding on. Guess we can hit that note today. Keep you holding on. Oh, to keep you holding on. Oh, keep you holding on. Keep you holding on. Thank you.